Hi folks, it's Philip Andrews from the Photoshop Elements team, and in this session we're going to look at some of the great new text and type tools that are available in Photoshop Elements 10. If you go and click and hold in the bottom right hand corner of the type tool icon, you'll see a sub-menu containing all of the type or text tools that we have available. And in particular, you'll notice that we have three new options at the bottom of this sub-menu. And we'll start off by looking at the Text on Shape tool. Now, in previous versions of Photoshop Elements, trying to do something like adding your text to follow a shape was quite difficult. We could do things like warp the text, but most of the time we just added the text in a straight line or a paragraph. So how do we actually go about creating text that follows lines around a shape? Well, it's now much easier. By selecting the Text on Shape tool, we can go up to the options bar of the tool and select a shape from the drop-down menus. Here we'll select ellipse. Next you go and draw that ellipse, and once you've drawn that ellipse, the tool's icon changes to a special insert icon that you can see here for inserting the text. Now where you click on the shape is important because this identifies the start of your text input. So we'll just click here, and you'll notice that the tool's options bar now changes to a standard text options bar. And we can do things like change the font and the typeface and the size and things like the justification. So if we are left aligned or right aligned or center aligned, all of those kind of options. And also the font color. With all those options set, we can now go about typing in. So let's just type in follow that line all the way around the shape. And you can see how the text is following the outline of the shape that we've previously drawn. Now automatically it goes to the outside, but if we hold down the Control or Command key, you'll see how our mouse icon changes, and we can click and drag inside to actually have the text follow the inside of the shape. We can also choose to move the start point. You can see how moving the cursor left and right moves the start point so we can reposition where the text is actually sitting. And remember, because this is text, at any time we can select the text and go through and do things like change the color by simply making sure that the text is selected and then go and select a different color. So here we might pick just this light pink and add that in. And you can see how that changes it. So very simple, very easy to use. Let's look at the other two options that we have for. We'll go to this image here, where we have a quite strong shape in the foreground of the image. What we want to do is add some text that you can see here following the edge of our mask. Now to do that, instead of using a shape, what we're going to do is use a selection. So we'll go over to our text tools and go down and choose text on a selection tool. Notice that the cursor changes to a familiar one. It's the quick selection cursor. And we can paint over the actual object itself and make a quick selection. Notice we've got a little bit of the background in here, so we can hold down the Alt or Option key and just remove that by quickly changing the quick selection tool to subtract rather than add. Now that we've done that, we can click on the green tick button to fix that selection. It now becomes a line that we can add our text to. And notice as we move the cursor over the edge of that line and we click on that edge, we will now change to the text insertion mode, and you can see our text options up the top here. Let's go and change the color back to white. And now we have the text cursor sitting on the edge of the selection. And we'll just drop down the size a little bit here. Remember, all of these are the same types of controls that you would normally have with your standard text input. So we'll just type in example text, and there it is there. Maybe put a little bit more space between these two. So I'll add an extra space in so that it gives us a little bit of separation between example and text. Just click on the green tick commit button in the options bar, and we have a new text layer. You can see it here. Now because it's a standard text layer, we can go through to the effects panel and choose something like drop shadows and just add in a small drop shadow to the text layer in order to make the text stand out more from the background. So even though we're using these new text tools, we can still apply the same sorts of controls and layer effects that we would normally apply with text tools. It's that simple. And let's go to the final one. Instead of aligning our text along a shape or along a selection, we're going to align it along a custom path. So we'll go over to the text and type tools and go down to custom path. The first thing we do is need to draw a custom path. So we click and drag the cursor around the image in the shape of the custom path that we want to add our text to. If it's not quite in the place or the shape that we want, we can go across to the Refine Path option in the options bar, select that tool, and then just change the shape slightly of our curve to get it to look the way that we want it to look. Then we click on the green commit button, bring our cursor over the actual line itself, which changes the cursor to the text insertion tool. Click on the point that we wish to start our text insertion, and then at this point we can type in our text. So I'm just going to type in summer. It's slightly too big, and so it's not going to fit on the line because the font size that we're working with is too big. So I'm just going to triple click just to select all of that, and then just go down and select a smaller font size so that we get the whole of summer in. Now notice that part of our text here is different size now. Let's just go through and select all that again and just change the font size that we're working with. So we'll just change it to say 24 and just double check. That's slightly too small. Let's go a little bit larger. So we'll go to 30 points. That's looking good. That's sitting on the line now. And we can move where it's sitting on the line, but just holding down the control key and just moving where we position that along the line. But it's a little hard to read sitting on the background. So let's go across to the effects panel, and we'll go and select complex from the drop-down menu and just select one of those effects that we have there and click apply. So automatically we can apply those layer effects that we have there in order to get an interesting text effect to our actual text.